Hello, hello, and welcome to Third Shot Rants with Howard and Gina. I'm Gina. Hi, Howard.
Hi, Gina.
And we're two pickleball friends living in Chicago.
Gina, what are we talking about this episode?
Well, Howard, with spring upon us in Chicago, we are talking about local parks to go play pickleball at that have open play.
Yeah, so I think I've been outside a few times already this season, one time with you, which we'll talk about. And what we're trying to cover on this episode are public parks that have some kind of open play scene where you can expect to go and find open play. And we'll try to give you kind of the basic information on where the parks are, what the courts are like there, and kind of how open play works if it's at all complicated. What are we going to start with, Gina?
Howard, I think we'll start with Horner Park, which is, one of the most popular parks. I think on the Northwest side, it's kind of the place to play, it seems like, or at least it was.
Yeah, I think at least on the north side of the city, and we're not really going to get to the south side of the city. But if people want to write in and give us info on where to play there, we're happy to feature it too. But at least on the north side, I think an awful lot of us got our start at Horner, or at least have played at Horner a good amount. So that's where we're going to start, and really, it's probably going to be the most confusing of the different parks we go through in terms of what the setup is there. So Horner is just south of Montrose Avenue, a little bit east of California Avenue, and Horner has four tennis courts, and on each of those four tennis courts, there's a lined pickle court on either side of the tennis net on each of those courts. And what happens is people will bring their own pickle nets and set up. And during busy times, there is an active open play scene.
So, Howard, if you were to walk up to Horner Park for your, like, let's say this was your first time there, what do you like? I guess, how would you help someone prepare?
Yeah, so I think the answer varies a little bit by time of day.
Hmm.
So there's no posted schedule. There is a Team Reach group, and we'll try to include all the Team Reach groups for the parks that we talk about that we're aware of. We'll try to include those in the show notes. But for the most part, it's not it's not really organized by Team Reach group. People just kind of show up there at set times. For Horner, weekday mornings tend to have a good amount of open play. So anytime starting maybe 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, maybe nine, there'll be people who play until 11 or 12. And and after that, you can't really expect to find people. You can't just show up and expect to find people to play with until maybe more like 5 or 6 in the evening. Horner is particularly confusing because it's set up both for tennis and pickle, and in fact, I think the only posted rules I think are actually for tennis courts, and there's no posted rules for pickle courts.
That's kind of bonkers. Like, by this point, Pickle has taken over Horner Park. I'm
Yeah,
surprised the park district hasn't really adapted.
and I do feel, I think we talked about this on a prior show. I do feel a little bit bad for the tennis players because it's still a tennis facility, but it's kind of hard to play on there. But I'll tell you sort of how things pretty much work in practice. So pickle players they'll bring portable nets and they'll set up on those courts. And I would say the vast majority of them, if you're talking about people who play, at nine to noon in the morning, or probably six through end of the evening at night, most of those will be happy to rotate, and it'll be an open play situation, even though it's individual people who brought their nets there. There is an ancient wooden paddle rack, a white wooden paddle rack on the far east side of the courts. That's what tends to be used as a paddle rack. The park district has put up these individual racks by each court for pickle. The black racks that kind of set up by each of the pickle courts. No one really uses those, Gina. It's the white wood rack that people tend to use. And
Yeah, so that just kind of adds to the confusion is that there's multiple racks, not really used. It's kind of hard to spot the racks, if I remember correctly, the new black racks, because they
yeah,
blend in with the fence.
yeah,
And there's not really,
I hit my head on one of those once while I was
oh, Howard.
bending up from picking a ball. But the times when it's easy is when it's relatively busy. So there's a bunch of people playing open play. There'll be people lined up by the east side of the park. There'll be paddles in the rack, in that wooden rack there. And if you show up, you just go put yours in the next slot that's open, and you can wait your turn and play. And most people will rotate off. The thing that's complicated, and the very first time I went to Horner, Gina. I went there and not all the courts were full. So there were people playing, but there was no one waiting because there were enough courts for everyone to be playing. I didn't know any of the people there. So I pulled up in my car and I was kind of watching, and I'd never been to open play before, and it felt a little intimidating for me. I was just kind of watching. I didn't know any of the people, and I was trying to figure out, are they rotating or not rotating? Eventually I kind of got up the nerve and got out of my car and went over and asked, "Hey, are you guys rotating?" They were pretty friendly and said, "Yeah, sure. Just wait for the next game." So when things are not busy, there's not going to be a queue, and you just kind of have to go and ask around and see if people are rotating. And I would say for the most part, people do, and will work you in.
That's a good tip there. So yeah, sometimes you will have to kind of go approach people if it's not busy. I'm thinking back to Horner Park being actually part of my origin story, and I would just go watch. I would like ride my bike by during COVID, and it was packed, like all 8 courts going. And I'm like, I don't know what that is, but I'm pretty interested in whatever that is. But then my first time actually going to play there, which would have been what, about 2 years ago, I'm sure that I made you drag me there and show me how to paddle up and talk to people for me, right?
Yeah, I think we went together. There was one. I don't think this was your first time, but there's one other time you kind of wanted to play at Horner, and it was during, like, if you're trying to play in the middle of the afternoon. Like I said, you can't count on there being people to play with. So I normally don't like to post on Team Reach, Gene. I don't. I just try to keep a low profile. But I just for you, I actually posted on Team Reach. I think we found a couple of people to play with, and we showed up and played.
Howard, thank you for doing that. It's a
Yeah.
testament to what good friends we've been since the start. So
But
yeah, Horner freaked me out in the beginning because it was really busy, and I already have enough social anxiety. And
yeah, and it can be a little chaotic, especially because there's no posted pickle rules. So at the other places we're going to talk about, there are pickle rules, and they're more or less the same rules in most places. Most places it's 4 on, 4 off when there are people waiting,
Mhm.
and there's a paddle rack, and you just put your paddle in the paddle rack, and you wait your turn, and you'll get on. Horner, there's no posted pickle rules because it's this mixed tennis and pickle facility,
Mhm.
and you can, and not everyone rotates, right? Because there's no posted pickle rules, you don't. There's no rule that says you have to rotate off, because you could say, well, I'm just kind of going to take my time the way tennis courts,
Mhm.
people play on tennis for an hour at a time and they don't rotate off in between. And some people, not most people, but some people do set up pickle nets there and stay with their group. And then everyone else kind of stares at them and expresses their displeasure with what's going on. And people go over repeatedly to ask if they're rotating.
Oh my gosh.
But when it's busy, it's pretty straightforward. There'll be a when it's nice weather, when there's a bunch of people, which is, as I said, in the mornings on the weekdays and the evenings on the weekdays. And on weekends, I don't play that as much on the weekends, but on weekends, I think, Gina, the mornings are pretty busy, and then it's a little hit or miss through the rest of the day. Sometimes there'll be open play, and sometimes there won't.
I think that's right. Like doing like a drive by Horner is kind of part of the process, seeing if anyone's there and not really counting on it. But yeah, you never know. You might get lucky.
Yeah. The other thing to keep in mind on Horner is the courts get used for tennis by Lane Tech High School, which is one of the big high schools in Chicago. The I think it's boys tennis plays in the spring. They're playing right now, and girls tennis plays in the fall. And they will have the courts something like 4 to 6 or 4 to 7, depending on whether they're just
Mhm.
practicing or playing a match. And so that gets used up. The Park District also uses the courts for its sessions, which are not open play. You can sign up on the Park District site, and that's actually how we first met, Gina.
Mhm.
Um, but they will take up some of the courts too. So in the evenings, um, it can be busy between, especially in the early evenings between the high school tennis practice and the Park District, which their sessions, it varies by day, but they often run 6 to 8 or 7 to 9, and so they will take up some of those courts. Um, and by convention, the Park District takes up the courts that are on the west end of the park, and open plays on the east end. So the east end is where that white paddle rack is. If you want to go at nighttime, there's a pretty active scene, especially later in the evening. There's a lot of people playing
Mhm.
when the weather's nice until the lights go out, which might be like 10 or 10:30.
Mhm.
I guess that's the other thing to mention, Gina, that there are lights at Horner, which is nice. So
Mhm.
you can play until really late, especially during the summertime.
Yep, great courts. Highly recommend. Well, I recommend.
Yeah.
If you want to come to Horner Park with me and Howard, email us at thirdshotrants@gmail.com and we'll take you with.
All right, we'll do a meetup. And the courts themselves, they're pretty decent for public courts, Gina.
Hmm.
They're not in perfect shape, but
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah. Good place to get some games, meet some friends, have a good day.
Yeah. Okay, next, Gina, I think next, kind of down the road, really pretty close to Horner, is Wells Park. What are those
Yes.
courts like?
So this, yeah, just opened up down the street on Montrose. When did it open? Like,
I think the summer before last, or was it last
yeah,
summer?
it was like fall maybe. So maybe like fall of 24.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they just opened up three dedicated courts right on Montrose. Really nice courts, really nicely done with permanent nets, so you don't have to bring your own net. They also have lights at Wells Park.
And it's kind of an open play situation, Gina, but not always. There's a paddle rack, or at least
Hmm.
some paddle racks on I think the east end of the little section there. Not everyone wants to rotate. Was that your experience, Gina?
Yeah, like from the few times that I've been there, I haven't been there. I guess like during very prime time open play hours, which I would say are weekend mornings and weekday nights. Like I'm usually there like during the day during the week. And it's usually foursomes that show up there. And so it's not it's not always very open play friendly like during the day. But I think if you go at the right time, it's not really an issue.
Yeah, although I think there's a question of whether you find enough people to have.
Hmm.
If you want to go with your foursome, then you're kind of fine because you can always wait
Hmm.
your turn and play. But if you're looking for open play and just one person or two people,
Hmm.
I think that there's an active open play scene. I think in the evenings, but it's some of this, Gene, I think is because there's fewer courts. So at Horner, there's a bunch of courts, so there's always a long queue, and there's always
Hmm.
a line of people to play, and it's like the thing we talked about on a prior episode, Gina, where you have foursomes that want to stick together, and we could debate whether that's okay or not. But when there's a whole bunch of people around and the people waiting, you never really have trouble if you show
Mhm.
up as a single or couple. You never really have trouble finding people to play with because you have your turn in line, and someone's always willing to jump in.
Yep, that makes sense.
Well, it's a little bit smaller since there's only three courts.
Yeah, it gets a little bit riskier to because you just don't know if there's going to one be people there, two people that are rotating.
Yeah. If anyone wants to kind of write in and tell us their experience with Wells or any of these parks, we'll cover it on a future episode. Next, Gina, I think we've got Maggie Daly. Have we been to Maggie Daly?
Howard, we went on a field trip this weekend and it was the best. So we went downtown on Sunday morning to go check out the downtown scene, to research for the pod. And
What did we find at Maggie Daly?
let's see, they have how many courts were there? How many tennis courts are there? Like six or eight?
I think there's five, four or five,
Okay.
maybe. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so we saw
How
about
many?
three courts taken playing tennis
How many
and
pickle players do we find, Gina?
zero pickleball players. So yeah, it was a little bit surprising, like kind of surprising. I figured people would be playing on a Sunday morning, but I didn't expect it to be super busy with pickleball. But to have no pickleball was an interesting find. What did you think?
Yeah, I kind of knew it was. So what I this first time I've been to Maggie Daly on the courts there to play. What I learned from reading Team Reach before was that it's mostly a weekday morning group. So it's the courts, there are tennis courts, and there are pickle nets that are actually owned by the park district and set up on the pickle courts for people to play. My understanding, just from reading the discussion on Team Reach, is that weekday mornings, something like maybe 9 to noon, those are the busiest times, and there are multiple courts that are made available for pickle at those times. There's a very organized community. They kind of pool their resources and supply balls for the courts, and I think there's a pretty regular group of people who play there. So I think if Maggie Daly is convenient to you on weekday mornings, 9 to noon, that's probably a pretty solid place to go play. Weekends, on the mornings, there is also scheduled Park District play there, which is why I thought we'd find someone. But it's maybe only just one or two courts on the weekend as opposed to multiple ones during the week. And I don't know if this will change in the summer, Gina, but probably weekday mornings is the surest bet for Maggie Daly.
Yeah, seems like a nice park. I've heard good things from people in the community, but haven't gotten a chance to see it live yet.
Yeah, and especially on the other thing to keep in mind is Grant Park also exists, and people may tend to go there rather than Maggie Daly, depending on whether they can find people to play at Maggie Daly.
Now, at Maggie Daly, you could bring your own net, right? Like it doesn't have to be a park district.
I
That's
don't.
just what they provide in the mornings, right?
Yeah, I think you can bring your own net, but it's parking is obviously a little inconvenient
Yeah.
there, so it's a little bit of a walk to get from wherever you are.
Yeah, I can't imagine
But
lugging my net around that hill and that little space that it's kind of tucked away the court. So, okay.
yeah, so we went to Maggie Daly, didn't find any pickle players there, and then what did you make me do, Gina?
Howard, I just casually asked, should we walk to Grant Park Courts? And you agreed initially, I think.
Yeah, I feel like
But
maybe you bullied me into that, but
let's just walk. We got to see the fountain. We got to, take some pics. We were like little tourists. It was fun.
yeah, so that takes us to Grant Park, which we've covered before on a special episode, a special Grant Park
Hmm.
episode, and we're not going to get into the whole challenge court controversy issue again, but it's a nice set of courts.
Yeah, Sunday kind of really surprised me. So what time were we there at? Would you say about like 10:30, 11?
Yeah, probably 10:30, 11 by the time we got to Grant.
And yeah, the place was maybe about half full. Oh, decent weather, a little bit windy out, so I could see why, maybe some people stayed away, but yeah, very, very casual setting on Sunday. I would found that it seemed like very welcoming. The level of play was not very high, and everyone seemed to be having a really nice time.
Yeah, it seemed very mellow. So there was no real, paddling system there because there were more than enough courts for the people that were there to play. And we just hit by ourselves for a little bit, and then a nice mother and daughter couple came up and asked us
Yeah,
to play, and we played a little bit.
yeah. So we had some fun playing with Jess and Vicky. Vicky was visiting from LA, had to get some pickle in, so yeah, that was a good time.
The courts are a little sloped there.
They're a little sloped. I really feel like I'm looking up when I'm on. I think I was facing north or something, but
Yeah, I think initially you and I started. We were on the north courts, and we were on the north side of the north courts, and looking, and that felt really downhill going from there down to the rest of the court. Plus, the wind was behind us, so it seemed really weird. We had the slope and the wind, which seemed
there's like a wall of wind. You could just kind of see when the ball hit it too. It just would get a little bit stuck in the air. Overall, a nice morning. I was not actually expecting for it to be like that casual because I was kind of like, oh, this is going to be stressful. I'm glad Howard's here to deal with people and do my talking for me, but it was nice. What did you agree?
yeah. I don't know whether it's always going to be like that. Once the
Yeah,
weather's consistently nice, I suspect it's going to get busier and busier.
definitely.
And as we talked about on prior shows, in the evenings, it can be a little bit chaotic. That
Hmm.
there's not a we're not going to rehash the whole paddle situation there, but there are a lot of people that kind of try to mandate challenge
Hmm.
courts, and there's this sort of, I think, ongoing tussle between them and other people in terms of how the paddle system is managed.
Hmm.
I will say every other court I can think of. I think every court we're going to cover on this episode, it's really pretty consistently, when it's busy, it's very consistently 4 on, 4 off. You just wait your line in the paddle rack, and that's kind of how it works everywhere,
Hmm.
except Grant, perhaps.
Very true. So if you're located downtown, you got two great options with Maggie Daly and Grant Park.
Yeah, and I think Maggie Daly, especially weekday mornings, my understanding is there's a pretty consistent group that plays there. Maybe Grant Park the rest of the time. What's next, Gina?
Um, Last city one is going to be Portage Park, which I believe opened last spring of 2025. Does that sound right?
I think so, though.
I think it was supposed
Yeah,
to open like 6 months before that, and it just kind of kept getting delayed. Does that ring a bell?
yeah, yeah. It definitely got delayed for quite a while.
Yeah.
There's 4 courts there. They are pretty nice courts. They're dedicated courts. They're also a little slopey. Like,
They're a little sloped at
yeah,
Portage.
many of the new courts the Park District has put in
Hmm.
seem a little more sloped than I would think has to be the case, because they're more sloped than the tennis courts that have existed, and for which I
Hmm.
assume the drainage is fine on the tennis courts. So why couldn't you do the same on the pickle courts? But they are pretty sloped. They're nice courts. They're four courts. There's separators in between. I will say the Wells courts, they have 3 courts, but there are no separators in between, and the
Hmm.
Wells courts are maybe a tiny bit close
They
together.
definitely are close.
Yeah. The paddle system at Portage is a little interesting. There is no Most places there's one single paddle rack for all the courts that are at the facility. So you just wait your turn, and you wait your turn. The next group that finishes comes off, and the group at the head of the line of the paddle rack goes on. It's 4 off, four on everywhere. At Portage, there are paddle racks by each of the four courts, and I've been there a few times. And the way it seems to operate by consensus there is you kind of pick the court you want to wait for and put your paddles in the rack that's next to that court. And it's I guess it's kind of fine, but it's just a little different from how everyone else does it.
Now, when you're picking out a court, is it like leveled at all, or is it's like you're going on with four, so it's really just who has the shortest line, and that's what you're going for?
I think so, and as as a student of operations management, as I'm sure you are, Gina, generally, I mean, I don't think it. I think people have agreed it doesn't really make sense to have multiple. A single line tends to be more efficient because
Hmm.
you don't have to worry about getting stuck in the long line versus the short line. You can
I
just be in the
mean,
line.
this is like a grocery store issue. Like you pick the wrong line, and then you're just kicking yourself until you're finally able to go check out. I don't.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think I'm here for one long line, and it seems a lot more fair.
yeah. Especially when it's not leveled.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe when it's not super busy, people maybe play two on.
Hmm.
But when it's busy, people are doing four on, four off. So it's not like they're leveled in a way that matters for your group.
Hmm.
And then they're not mocked at it. It could make sense if you're not a foursome and you're just trying to paddle up with other people. It could make sense if you want to get with people of kind of a similar level. But there's nothing mocked as far as
Hmm.
levels. And I haven't been there that much, but I've been there a few times, and I don't think there's any understood convention of which courts are higher versus lower
Hmm.
level.
What does the crowd seem like there? Um,
There's a
yeah, do you
lot
have
of
any?
there's a lot of chaotic players there. Overall, I would say the overall level of open play is broadly maybe 3-0 to 4-0 kind of everywhere.
Hmm.
Grant Park probably skews higher in
Hmm.
in that range. Horner is, I think, like a pretty regular group. Like you
Hmm.
definitely find people throughout that range, and you'll find people above and below that range too. Although I tend to think sometimes when people are both above and below, they maybe come more as foursomes and are trying to
Hmm.
play together more. Portage is probably a little on the lower side, and you get people with non-conventional pickle games,
Hmm.
which could probably benefit from some coaching, Gina.
I'll hand out my card next time I'm there.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like these courts. I live in the Portage Park neighborhood. It's a nice addition to Portage Park in general. During the daytime, I play off hours, so I'm kind of lucky in that respect. But I've never really had problem getting a court there on a Tuesday afternoon. But
yeah,
um,
and this may change this summer. My general impression again is that there's an open play group that's there in the mornings, and
mhm,
some of them start quite early in the mornings, especially in the summer when it gets hot. So I played
mhm,
a little bit there last summer, and there's definitely an evening crowd that maybe starts around 5 or 6 or so. And this group there, so you can. It is a place you can go in the mornings and the evenings to find open play. You probably shouldn't expect to find open play in terms of having a group the
mhm,
rest of the time. I'm not positive what it's like on the weekends. I imagine it's probably similar to what I just said for
mhm,
the weekdays, but maybe it's a little busier in the afternoons as well.
mhm. Yeah, they've got a pretty active team reach. People seem pretty eager and friendly overall. So
Yeah, I
go
think
check it out.
it's a good resource if you're over in that area. So
Hmm.
Portage Park is it's kind of between Irving Park Road and Montrose, and a little bit east of Central Avenue.
Hmm.
Okay, we're going to the suburbs now, Gina. What is that like?
Howard, how many times have you dragged me out to the burbs, Howard?
Okay, let's start with Woodland Park, which is The very first time I drove, right, Gina? I didn't make you drive like I made you drive to
I
Maggie
need door
Daly.
to door service if I'm going up to Woodland Park.
First time we went to Woodland Park in Park Ridge. We'll put the address in the show notes. It's a little bit north of Oakton Street in Park Ridge, and it's a nice facility. There's 6 dedicated courts. They're pretty well spaced. They're not weirdly sloped like some courts
Hmm.
around the city. And I've been there mostly on weekday mornings. So weekday mornings when the weather's nice, there's a very active crowd. I suspect it starts certainly by 8 a.m., possibly earlier, although I've not been there earlier. And it'll go until kind of the usual, maybe 11, maybe a little bit later than 11, depending on how hot it is and how long people last. There's a super clear paddle system there. There's a set of racks, one set of racks for all the courts. There's 6 courts, and it runs pretty efficiently. But the time that I dragged you there, was there no one there, Gina, or was there just not people to play with?
I want to say that we sat in the car from a distance and determined it was not a good choice for that day.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's totally fair. I would say the level of play it's pretty regular. It's like in that 3-0 to 4-0 range there on a regular day, but it was not well attended when we went. I think we went when it was relatively cold, maybe,
Hmm.
but it's quite busy when the weather's nice. And
Yeah.
I've gone there a few times and found decent games. They do something there, Gina, which they also do at some of the other suburb parks, and I'm trying to think why they don't do it in the city. But there's there's a set of 3 courts on either side, so 3 courts in a row, like next to each other, and then there's another set of 3 courts, kind of in parallel with those 3 courts, if that makes sense.
Mm.
And people shift. So when you win, when normally the group at the far end finishes first, and then
Oh,
everyone slides down one court to the next court, which I think minimizes. I'm not describing this well, but I think it minimizes the amount of people kind of crossing courts.
what
So
do we call that? Like the pickleball shuffle or something when you're
let's call it that.
okay. I forgot about that. That's like ringing a funny bell for me right now.
Yeah, so everyone sees that the game next to them has finished, and they everyone shifts one down. And I do think it minimizes the extent to which people are crossing course that may be in active play.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's like a little, I don't know, extra, but it's fine.
Yeah, but they do that there, and they do that also at Wilmette, which I think we'll talk about next.
Hmm.
So the Wilmette courts, I looked it up. They're called the community playground. Yeah, the community. Maybe it's playfields. I
I
don't know.
think it's community playfield.
Playfield, community playfield courts. But everyone in the world refers to them as the courts by the Wilmette Junior High School.
Hmm.
And there are. I'm trying to remember because I haven't been there since last summer. But I think there are 6 dedicated pickle courts, and then there is one tennis court that is in the mornings at least. It's used solely for pickle. They have Park District set up pickle nets, like kind of sturdy, semi-permanent nets, or not permanent, but sturdy nets that are set up on each side of the tennis net. So there's I think 8 courts in total. They're nice courts. I think that's really the area where there probably is the highest level of play in terms of open play in the northish suburbs. It's where people I know have tended to go. And again, it's I think it's roughly like a 3-0 to 4-0 level. but probably skewing toward the higher end of that, and also definitely some people above that. But it's a pretty good time.
I remember going here last year with you. I do recall making you match shirts with me just so that I felt safe and secure. It's just like a little something we do when we go out in public. Yeah, and it had a clear paddle system. Everyone seemed pretty friendly and welcoming. A good spot.
Yeah, I think any place where there's a paddle rack, and when there's a community of people that expect there to be rotation
Mm-hmm.
and lines, it always seems to work pretty well, because if you're a little confused, someone will explain it to you. Everyone kind of knows what the system is. It's always four
Mm-hmm.
on, four off, and especially when it's busy, there'll be enough people to play with. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we've talked about the issue of kind of foursomes stay together, and there are absolutely foursomes that choose to stay together at Wilmette and at Park Ridge. But as long as they come off when they finish their game, as long as they're not trying to jump the queue, and as long as no one else ends up being stuck and not having a foursome to play with, then I think that's okay, Gina. Do we agree on that?
I do. I do agree. Like you got to wait your turn. Got to make sure that no group is left hanging, like only with three people or something. And yeah, it's. I think it's totally acceptable to when you're at outdoor public courts. You know, like you said earlier, we just don't have the option. Well, we generally don't have the option to reserve a court outside. So this is one way to go play with our friends and keep it friendly and not hog a court, follow the rules, but get what we're looking for that day.
Yeah, because these open play courts, they're not ones where you can just hold a court as a foursome for, let's say, an hour and just play by yourselves for an hour. They're just open play. You play your game, you get off. And I think people seem fine with
Mm-hmm.
foursome sticking together. People also seem fine with couples that show up together and want to play together, and that's not really an issue, especially in the suburbs.
Mm-hmm. We're
So
just like really close friends who are wearing the same outfit. They seemed welcoming of us.
yeah, I think so.
Oh my gosh.
What's next, Gina?
Next up, we've got Oakden Park up in Skokie.
Yeah, so that's it's just south of Oakton Street in Skokie, a little bit east of Skokie Boulevard, and there are 6 courts there, I believe. Dedicated courts.
Windscreens, lights, right?
Yeah, pretty nice. So
Mm-hmm.
that reminds me, we should try to cover the light situation. So Horner has lights, Wells has lights. I don't think Maggie Daly has not lights, but I don't think there's this play in the evening anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Grant has lights. Portage has lights.
Mm-hmm.
Park Ridge, Woodland Park, I don't believe has lights, and I don't think Wilmette has lights.
Okay.
But Oakton does have lights. I play there a decent amount. My experience is, even though in principle there could be open play at Oakton in the mornings, people around Oakton tend to go to Wilmette. So those two are really not that far apart from each other, maybe less than 10 minutes by expressway. And I'm sure there is some open play at Oakton in the mornings, but people tend to go to Wilmette in the mornings, especially weekday mornings.
Mm-hmm.
I'm less sure what the weekend situation is. I think there's more open play at Oakton on the weekends in the mornings. However, in the evenings, if you're in kind of the near north part of Chicago, or the sort of near north suburbs, Oakton's a pretty decent place to play. There's a pretty active group. I think things kind of pick up. Some people may be there by 5 o'clock, but definitely by 6 or 7, it's a pretty active group. And the same thing as all the others. There's one central paddle rack. It seems to be pretty well followed, and there's one paddle rack that works for all the courts. People seem pretty good about getting off when they finish their game.
Would you call it a friendly crowd up there, Howard?
It's mostly a friendly crowd.
Hmm.
I there's some personalities like there are pretty much any of the courts we've talked about.
Oh yeah. I mean, it has me wondering why you're driving all the way to the suburbs when we have all these city courts, Howard. What are you doing up there?
Well, so why do I go to the suburbs? Let's see. Evenings, in the evenings, especially the early evenings, you can't really count an open play at Hornet because
Hmm.
it's either taken up by high school tennis and or park district,
Hmm.
or it can be a little bit crowded. So I have gone. The other thing is I'm on kind of the northwest side of the city and close to the expressway, so
Hmm.
it's it's sub 15 minutes for me to get to Oakton or any of the close by places. Wilmette, it's actually only 15 minutes for me if the highway is moving because both Oakton and Wilmette are relatively close to the expressway. And sometimes I like just kind of seeing some different people, Gina,
Mm.
just because you kind of see the same people over and over again. And
Yeah, a little change of scenery, change of style of game. I get it.
yeah, I don't like to go by myself. So if I haven't managed
Hmm.
to drag you along, then I'm playing with a friend of the pod, Susie, and
Yeah,
we'll go places together.
very good, Howard.
But yeah, so so it is a little tough. Like if you're trying to play 5 or 6 p.m., it's a little harder to find a court, open play court. If you're fine if you're down in the middle of the city and you want to go to Grant Park, it's going to be super busy and you'll find
Hmm.
games. But Hornet at 5 o'clock doesn't really work. And Portage, you can maybe find a game there, although
Hmm.
maybe it's not going to be busy. But
Hmm.
Oakton's pretty good.
Okay, that matters.
Yeah.
So you got to roll the dice a little bit when you get in the car and hope to get some games in. So
Yeah, and I do like some randomness, right? Like it's just rant in terms of people you meet.
yeah, it's like a controlled randomness of sorts.
Well, I like having someone with me. So first of all, I don't necessarily have to be playing with someone who might be annoying. But if you're playing with someone who's annoying, then you can beat them and
Hmm.
get your satisfaction that way.
There you go.
We have any more courts, Gina? One last one.
Yeah, we just had a new one open up in Evanston at James Park. I am looking to go visit here, but I haven't gotten a chance yet. Howard, tell us about James Park.
Yeah, I haven't been either. I've talked to a few of our friends who have been.
Hmm.
It's supposed to be very nice. There's 15 dedicated courts.
Hmm.
I believe they are lit. There's a Team Reach group that's reasonably active, which we'll include in the show notes.
Sorry, you said 15.
15, one
Oh, that's
five.
massive. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fantastic.
And so it really is just kind of starting out. So I don't know quite what the
Hmm.
scene is going to be like, but I would think with so many courts that it's going to attract an active crowd.
That'll
As
be a
long,
fun one to go check out for sure.
yeah, as long as the courts are not being taken up by programming, Gina.
What do you mean, Howard? What's going on?
So from what I've read online in the forums, one of the leagues which are run by friends of ours, the AAC league is taking up the courts. I think from taking up 8 of the 15 courts from 10 to 2 p.m. on Sundays,
Hmm.
and so that is a very solid chunk of the courts during a pretty prime time
Hmm.
to play. I think so. There's a little bit of a debate about that.
That's interesting. Do you think that the city of Chicago should allow renting of pickleball courts outside? Is this
It's
something that I don't know
I don't think, especially if we set aside Grant Park and Maggie Daly. Where we are, there really are not enough courts to think about renting, I think. Like imagine you show up to Horner and someone's rented a block of courts for the morning. Like people would
Hmm.
be up in arms.
Yeah.
I can see if you had 15 courts like they have at James Park
Hmm.
that maybe you can rent out some of them. Although again, it depends on how busy those are. If those courts would all be taken up by like a really active open play scene on Sunday mornings, then you know I'm not very deep into it, but I guess I'd at
Mm.
least think about whether it made sense for the city to rent those out or not.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'd be curious to know what the fees are. Like, it is a public resource, but like having that guaranteed Sunday morning court time, that could be, quite a, I don't know, a nice way to start the day.
Yeah, if I could, even though you could otherwise play for free, if I could guarantee myself a
Yeah.
2 hour block of court time every Sunday, I I might pony up and pay for it.
I mean, how many times have we driven to a court and then had to go to like two other places before we got a net up?
Yeah,
Maybe, I think every year Chicago and the surrounding burbs are doing great at adding more courts. So maybe this won't be an issue moving forward. But yeah, there was definitely some scarcity going on for a few years.
yeah. So I think it depends on how busy things are. So if on
Hmm.
Sunday mornings there's a huge open place scene and it's really crowded, but they only have access to 7 of the 15 courts while 8 of them are being taken up for a league, then people might debate that a little bit.
Hmm. It's interesting. We'll have to see how that unfolds.
All right. We're
Howard,
gonna
you'll
have
give us all the team reach codes.
I will.
Hmm.
And we're going to have to do a field trip to James Park someday, Gina.
Yeah.
The other thing I've heard is someone has told me that the nets seem a little too high there,
Mm.
that they're set up. I think meaning the net posts are
Mm.
too high, so then it's not like you can even adjust them to the
Right.
height.
Yeah. Like, how do you get that wrong?
Seems very weird.
Well, we'll bring our tape measure when we go and we'll let the people know what's going on at James Park.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I think that's it for our roundup of the courts. Again, if you have places that you want us to tell everyone about, the best thing, Gina, would be if people would send us a little voice recording, tell us what the court is, what the conditions are like, what are the times that are good to play there, and we'll play it.
I'm so curious if people are going to participate in this or if their court's going to be a secret, you know?
I have the so I have had people who tell me don't talk
Yeah.
about our courts. And for the most part, those are not so much open play courts, so they're not really candidates for us to talk about. But
Yeah, I get it.
yeah,
Sounds good. Or hope you all get outside and get some good games in soon.
yeah. And if you've got any corrections or feedback for us, let us know, and we'll cover it. So, Gina, Coach's Corner. What do we have this week?
Howard, with all the talk of public parks and going to open plays, I'm really just given a piece of advice that I give to so many people that I'm not sure if they're really following. What I'm finding at the intermediate level is that people are really, really concerned with winning games in every scenario, like tournament, league, open play, ladder play. Any scenario that you're put into is a dire situation to win the game. And advice that I like to give, and like it's part of my own process that like helped me improve quite a bit, is really using open play as an opportunity to practice something and improve. And there's no reason to ever feel like, oh, this game is boring or it's beneath me. Like, great, then work on your drops and work on hitting to that inside foot and have something in mind. Don't care about winning and care about just making good choices. And so I think, using these parks, it's kind of, I don't know, it just seems like a safe space where like okay, I'm not like playing with my usual friends. I'm playing with some other people. No one cares if I win or lose this game. But it's really, I think, within these people to stop caring themselves about the score and yeah, use open play to improve your game. But what do you think, Howard? Have
But
you
Gina,
ever?
but Gina, I just met these people for the first time. I can't have them think I'm bad. I can't miss my shot because I'm trying something new.
You know, it's that always feels like too much pressure. But miss your thirds, find that rhythm, get it sorted at open play, and then go show your friends how good your drops are, and things will start happening.
Yeah, we talked. At least I talked before about the intensity scale that I put people on. I feel like a lot of people are a 4 or 5 on the intensity scale, and those people will never try new things
Mm-hmm.
because they're almost always better at the shots that the techniques that they have been used to playing with, and trying something new. It's not going to work as well, and they're going to lose that rec game. And these new people they just met are going to think they suck.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely cared more in the beginning, but at some point we got to let that go, right? Like pickleball win is not our pride and joy. It's just kind of part of the fun along the way.
I mean, my pet theory is that no one who has played pickleball consistently for like 2.5, 3 years is really going to get that much better. They could if they took lessons and drilled and worked on their game at open play, but everyone just wants to win games, and people are going to just kind of be stuck at the level they reach after a
Yeah.
couple of years.
Yep. So it's a little bit of a mindset shift. You got to, take the foot off the gas a little bit and actually like think about some strategy during the game. So
Yeah,
if you're looking to improve, I highly recommend using open play as a practice court. And
I would say, look, if you're someone that really cares about your duper, for example, look at it. Like if you haven't really improved in the last year, then if you don't care about it, yeah, I'd say that's totally fine. But if that's an important goal of yours to improve your duper, and you're not improving, then you're not, it's not, whatever you're trying is not working. And part of what you're trying is trying to win every single damn rec game that you
mhm.
can, and maybe work on something that is going to be better for you in the long run, but it's going to lose some rec games at open play for you. Or you don't care about your dupe and you just want to win those damn rec
Yeah.
games, and that's fine. If that's but realize that that's your goal, not
Hmm.
actually to improve, and those things are in significant tension with each other, I think.
Yeah, we've got a little bit of looking in the mirror here, how we're deciding what is our goal and how do we get there.
I mostly just want to hit stupid shots, Gina, to amuse myself, and when I can, then I'm just happy.
You're welcome for setting you up for an ATP on Sunday at Grant Park.
I honestly, like, I will remember if I hit an ATP on the day. I have no idea if I won or lost a game, but if I hit an
Yeah.
ATP, that was a respectable one as well. It was like,
Yeah, it was quite good. You like really hooked it in. I think, yeah, the wind was a factor.
yeah.
It was good.
There's always that moment when you're trying for an ATP where you think, "Am I doing? Is this stupid? Is the ball not even going to get wide enough for me to go for it?" And that one I did not have a ton of angle, but I had enough.
I had a HTP last week where I hit the post quite hard and the ball like bounced back and nearly hit me. So, uh, you win some, you lose some.
Yeah. Okay. So if people are serious about improving, and Gina only wants to coach you if you're serious about improving, you can email her at gtpicklecoach@gmail.com. That's gtpicklecoach@gmail.com. But be serious about improving. To be, take it seriously. I am, as always, a Carbon ambassador. My discount code is Carbon10, CRBNTEN. And importantly, email us at thirdshotrants@gmail.com if you want to tell us anything, but especially about open play situations. We'd love to hear where you like to play and what the pros and cons of different locations are.
Happy pickling, Howard, and
Happy
everyone.
pickling. Are we doing after show, Gina?
Should we?
Yeah, just briefly. So after we played, what did we do, Gina?
Oh, Howard. Oh my gosh. So first, let's see. First, we were looking for an Uber, and it was going to be a 15-minute wait to basically go like a mile or something.
Yeah. Somehow we're down around Grant Park. I'm tired of the walking, so Gina makes me walk from Maggie Daly to Grant Park. Almost kills me. I'm
I
like,
asked you once.
okay. I was like, we're taking an Uber back, and I call it, but somehow the driver it picks for me is coming from somewhere in Streeterville, and it's going to take 15 minutes just to get to us, even though we're just going a mile north we're going from Grant Park back to around Maggie Daly. So then what did you make me do, Gina?
So we got on the bus. We got on the 4 bus and headed north. That was fun. That really made it feel like a field trip because we have the stand. There's no seats. We've got our big bags with us. I got a picture of you with the beat in the background while you're standing on the bus. You did not consent to. It was fun. I enjoyed myself.
And the bus driver was lovely. She was very
Oh
helpful.
my God. I wish we got her name. She was willing to give us directions to anywhere on planet Earth, and it was so helpful.
So we went to dim sum. There's a dim sum chain called Ming Hing, Minghin. They've got several locations, including one in Chinatown that actually you and I have been to
Mm-hmm.
before. We went with my son Henry when we did our last field trip to Grant Park. That's it's a. I wish there. If anyone has a recommendation for a better dim sum place, I am totally open to it. It's a very solid place. I've no problems with it, but I could see there being a better place. But anyway, that's the place in Chinatown is the regular place that I go to. But I knew they had a branch just immediately north of Maggie Daly, and so that's where we went because we were parked under Maggie Daly, so this was super convenient.
Yeah, Howard. It was absolutely delightful. And I think the highlight for me, besides spending time with you, was those barbecue pork little buns. Very, very good.
Yeah, so we're gonna I have to show Gina is just gonna be quickly rating the different dim sum items. So there's the barbecue pork buns, which like in Chinese, cha sao ball, right? They're kind of fluffy, pillowy,
Mhm.
steamed white dough buns with Chinese barbecue pork inside. That's apparently your favorite.
Five out
Uh,
of five.
okay, I'm gonna try to remember the rest of it, and you're gonna rate them, Gina.
Hmm.
The shrimp dumplings,
Hmm.
which are shrimp that's encased in a glutinous rice dough wrapper. What do you give those, Gina?
They were also very, very good. I would give those a 4.5 out of 5.
Okay, those
What would
are
you give them?
those are my favorite item at dim sum.
Mm,
I feel like it's the canonical dim sum item. Like it's
mm,
the most important dim sum item. And the versions we have they were pretty good on Sunday. They weren't
mhm,
the absolute best, but they were
mhm,
solid. Then we had fried shrimp, kind of like tiny little mini spring rolls or egg
mm.
rolls, but they were very small and thin and filled with shrimp. How were those for you, Gina?
Those were good, and I like the sweet dipping sauce.
Gina, I never use that sauce.
I noticed. I noticed. I was like, I don't even have to worry about double dipping because this is mine.
Dip it in the chili oil, Gina, next time.
Um,
Okay.
my bad.
And then what else do we have? We had some sticky rice, like kind of stir fried sticky rice. It was done differently at this location from the other Mingking location in Chinatown. That threw me off a
Hmm.
lot, but it was pretty solid. What would you give that?
Enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Highly recommend.
What are you giving this? What are you giving this? The shrimp rolls.
Um, I'll give them like a solid 3.8 out of 5.
Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
I like them a lot. Everything was good. The cookie at the end, dug it.
Yep. Yep. So if you go to Maggie Daily, that's a convenient place to have lunch, or if you live in that area.
Awesome, Howard.
Okay, I think
Thanks
that's
again
it.
for lunch.
Happy pickling, even though you
Happy pickling.
already did the happy pickling. We haven't really decided whether it's at the very end or at the end of
Yeah.
the main show.
Happy pickling. Happy day. I don't know. Sounds good. Good job, Howard.
Okay, and I think we haven't really discussed this, but I think we're going on maybe kind of like a monthly cadence for the show, Gina. That
I
feels
think
like,
that seems feasible.
yeah. Okay, bye everyone.